Okay. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. You're saying, hey, AP, I'm a citizen of a micronation. I've already watched all of your stuff on micronational basics. I've already watched your whole series on micronational economics. What now? What is the thing that's going to take my micronation from its initial starting point, which you've talked about over and over and over again, to actual growing fruition? What's the thing that takes us to the next level, and how do we get there fast? Well, we're back to economics. So if you haven't watched those basic economics videos yet, I recommend you do so, because this is step 2. This is the advanced class, and up first we're talking about the difference between businesses and industries in your micronation. Okay, so them boys at Webby's dictionary define it as a commercial or mercantile activity normally engaged in as a means of livelihood. And that's compared to an industry, which is defined as a manufacturing activity as a whole. And while yes, Webster's second definition for business does technically talk about industry, for the purposes of this video, we're going to separate business as specifically mercantile and commercial, whereas industry is going to be specifically based around manufacture and sale of manufactured products. Now, businesses, being specifically mercantile, are going to deal entirely with the sale of finished goods. So that's going to be things like the statue, the pendant, and the hatchet. Now, businesses have some pretty good pros to think about. One of the first ones that comes up, obviously, is the fact that you don't actually have to make anything. So all that time and effort that you would have spent manufacturing these items, you can focus that down into increasing your sales and trying to get higher revenues. And another pro is the fact that you can curate the items that you sell. So that means you can really niche down your brand and focus on what your customers are going to enjoy. Whereas other manufacturers, for example, might have to be more flexible and still have trouble making the same revenue that you do. One of the cons of this setup, though, is that if you're not making these products, somebody has to, and they're going to expect payment for it. So you can either do that on the front end by taking the large initial investment you have, buying them in bulk, and then reselling them for a higher profit, or you can do what a lot of drop shippers do, where they take on the weight of the initial purchase price. However, they will take a large portion of your profit at the back end. So you don't have that initial investment, but there's a loss on each individual sale. So you're going to have to weigh those pros and cons yourself. And another con to throw on top of that, if you decide you're not doing drop shipping and you're going to actually sell the things yourself in bulk, well, then you have to deal with inventory, and that's another large headache, which means operating costs for housing the materials, for doing all of that stuff, which can be a lot. Up next is industries. And industries are going to be specifically about manufacturing those items that businesses sell. So we're going to take things like this aluminum and copper here and actually turn it into the final products that are either going to be put into another industry's manufacture or are going to be directly sold to a consumer. Now, this has a lot of pros and cons to it as well. Now, the first con right away is going to be that the same inventory issues that you dealt with in bulk buying and selling directly to consumers in a business is going to roll over into manufacturing 100-fold. You need to have a lot of material on hand at one time to be able to manufacture things consistently and provide volumes of product that will give you high enough profit margins to survive. This also comes with another huge con, which is the fact that you have to manufacture these items. So all of the equipment cost, all of the time, all of the hiring of people to make it, qualified professionals, the standards that you have to go on to, all of those things are going to be very, very difficult when it comes to manufacturing. Now, some things are going to be harder than others. For example, making ceramics is going to be different than melting metals, is going to be different than creating computer components. All of these things are manufactured, but they all vary in the amount of skills and resources that are required to get started. Now, the first and probably biggest pro of industry is going to be the fact that you have a very low product cost. Now, while it may cost you a lot of money to buy raw materials in bulk, and in order to hire people to produce these products and to purchase all of the materials and equipment that it costs to finally get that finished product, once you divide up the amount of individual products you're able to make in bulk, it becomes cheaper and cheaper, especially the larger that you grow. So there is this huge initial startup cost, but once you get to the final sale of these products, you'll realize that if you're doing it well, you can actually come up with a significant amount of profit per individual item. However, you have to balance that with how much you're able to manufacture at once. And that leads into the second pro, which is flexibility. Now, when we talked about a business, we said that flexibility was really bad because you want to be able to focus on a specific type of consumer. Now, while that can be true for manufacturing as well, one of the nice benefits of manufacturing is that you have a large breadth that you can move into as far as what you decide to niche down on. Now, what I mean by that is the fact that if you want to manufacture in bulk for another manufacturer who's going to put together a final product, so for example, if you made airplane parts and you sell those airplane parts to an airplane manufacturer, you aren't making the airplane, but you're able to sell a large volume of these items to them that they're going to need to sell their very expensive final product. That's a lot of profit for you, but it takes a lot of startup cost in being able to supply them with enough materials to put together their airplane. But you can also go the other way with manufacturing and focus on individual custom consumers. Now, these are going to be people who may have a very low volume that they want to purchase from you, but they need something really specific that they can't just go out and buy at the store. So even if you don't have the startup cost to be able to purchase lots and lots of equipment to be able to make huge volumes for other industries, you can still do things on a smaller scale that'll get you a pretty decent profit margin for individual custom orders. Now, this is going to be more in the art of it. The retention of your customer is not going to be as much on trying to secure large contracts with other manufacturers, like would be in the large scale case. But in the small scale case, you're going to have to do some of that advertising. You're going to have to take on some of that legwork of a business and actually try to find your customers. And so this is kind of a weight between whether you want to go into manufacturing with all the heavy startup costs but the long-term payoff, or a business where you want to have this very quick initial payoff but take some of the cuts on the back end all the way through. Now, whether a nation goes toward business or industry is ultimately going to be up to its circumstances and its people. So as you develop and learn more about the nation that you're in, really try to focus on what it is that would give you the most benefit in your circumstance. In Aeternia, we've chosen industry. Now, as you can see behind me, we have over 25 pounds of aluminum ingots here. These are just the ingots that have come out nice and have worked out for us. And again, this is specifically in aluminum. We also have a little bit of copper and of aluminum brass. And all together, I would say we probably have around 60 pounds of metal right now. That's some in refined finished products, that's some in ingot form like this, and then some in just heaping piles of mess and monstrosities that we've made that have not worked out and need to be remelted. So that being the case, we have a lot of work here that we've done and put into it. And now we have this nice available product which can be sold as is or turned into something more specific. Right now we are trying to niche down into actually getting final finished goods for people and generally trying to get into custom orders as well. So that's why earlier when you saw the hatchet, the pendant, and the statue, we are trying to show some diversity there as well. So if you're interested in purchasing any of those things from us, let us know. But as we continue, we really want to be able to build on what we can do and show that industry is a way for us to expand the versatility of Aeternia, not only for selling purposes, not only for trying to define ourselves economically, but also for our own practical purposes and our citizens' benefit as well. So we really want to provide the most we can for the longest term evolution of Aeternia possible, and so we're not as focused on quick fixes. Again, businesses are fantastic for developing as very quickly expanding and high volume sales operations. Industries are going to take a lot longer. They are going to require a lot of equipment and upkeep and maintenance, but they allow so much versatility and they allow you to build a really consistent, solid customer base once you get going. So again, I'd say it's more about a longer term investment, longer term reward versus shorter term investment, shorter term reward, and then kind of some slowing on the back end. Again, it's really up to you what you decide and how your nation progresses, but for us, this was the way to go. So far we're doing well. Again, we're a couple years into this industry now and are really trying to see where we can go with it. So here's to another few. Aeternia forever.